Well, good morning, everyone. And it is an honor for me to sit down and talk with Kristyn Getty of the Gettys. And she currently is in Ireland. I'm coming to you live from Chicago. Kristyn, good morning to you all. Good afternoon to you in Ireland.
Good afternoon. Yeah, we've been here a little bit now. We usually live in Tennessee, but we've been here nearly a couple of weeks, so we're over the jet lag, and that is starting to feel very nice
Yeah.
being here.
Kristyn, how often do you go to, once a year, how much time do you spend between Tennessee and Ireland?
Well, we tend to go home every summer. That's always our plan, mostly June and July. But because of COVID-19, we had to change our plans, like lots of people have had to. And so we decided to do fall here instead this year and
Yeah.
homeschool kids. Yeah.
Good. Now, you have four girls, your husband Keith, and you have four girls. How old are
We
they?
do.
Oh, three girls. Okay.
No. So I said we do. Yeah, we have four girls. You're right. We definitely four. Our eldest is 9, and then we have a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So, we're very busy. We're still feel very much in the little years.
Yeah. Kristyn, I have two daughters. They're 6-year-old and also 2-year-old.
Okay.
And it is an adventure of princesses, Elmo, different things like that all the time.
I know. And with my firstborn, we really went into all those things, and we still do. But now, because there's 4 of them, the chaos it creates when they all get to do what they want to do. And so I have a glitter embargo on right now because I just can't keep track of the amount of glitter that 4 girls can spread around our home. So I've hidden all the glitter.
Oh.
Just for a while. We just need a break from the glitter.
And so, Kristyn, what happens during the day? Does everyone wake up at 9 a.m.? Everyone sits at the table, and then from that point on, you start teaching them in different subjects?
Well, no, because we've just been getting through jet lag, the time has been all over the place. But we're starting to get into a space where the kids are up sometime between 7 and 8. And their daddy, who is a morning person and a coffee drinker, he jumps in pretty early on with the girls, and that tends to be a bit more of a space for me because I wouldn't just jump up because I'm the late night mommy.
Yeah.
And gets up during the night. Anyway, Kate does family devotions with them every single morning. I'm going through a 1-year Bible program with them right now. So they just finished the Old Testament in the last couple of weeks, and they're launched into the New Testament. So that's been really great, and they've been praised with them. And then we do a little bit of language arts and maths in the morning, and in the afternoons a bit of science and a little more project-based things whenever Talia, our youngest, is sleeping.
Yeah.
That's the general plan.
Which subject do you like the best?
Oh my goodness. Well, maths was never my forte, so we do it first to get out of the way.
Yeah.
I studied English literature at university, and so I always enjoy that. Although at this stage, we love all the creative writing. We love that. The grammar, I feel like I'm learning it all over again. And yesterday I was caught out with apostrophes after plurals.
Yeah.
I sat with Eliza and thought, oh, hold on, wait a minute. What? How does this work again? So it's been helping me brush up my grammar skills in the English language, that's for sure.
Kristyn, right now, I'm here recording in my office. My first grade daughter is over in her first grade class right next to me. My wife teaches first grade. She's in the other room. And so we're trying to figure out how to deal with all of this every day.
It is so tricky. I would find it really hard. And our 2-year-old is the one that causes, honestly, the most hassle just because she can, we love her. We're going to keep her. She's amazing. But she tends to walk into every situation and create chaos and stop the momentum as we're trying to focus. So that's been tricky. So that's often when Keith is working during the day, he'll dip in and he'll try and take Tally off our hands and take her for a walk or let her play with him while he works, just to try and help us get through the day. It definitely is a team effort to get it all going.
And Kristyn, I was getting updates from Johnny in terms of your Sing conference. How did it go?
Oh, it went so well. It was a crazy season, like it was for everybody, trying to figure out how to navigate the new normal of that COVID-19 created. And after a few weeks of going backwards and forwards, we jumped on this idea of trying to make it a digital conference, and it went so well. It was a lot of work. We are so proud of a very small team that did a mammoth job. And one of the great advantages of having been digital was just the reach internationally. It was such an encouraging thing to be able to invite people in who wouldn't ordinarily be able to fly to Nashville. So nothing replaces a live setting where everybody's together singing together. I know that, but this did really, really well at trying to make the most and much more than that. of this particular season.
As you look ahead, are there things about the Sing conference, the virtual conference, that you're hoping to replicate next year? You say, wow, it works so well. We're going to have to keep doing this.
Oh, absolutely. It was such an encouraging thing to know people all over the world were engaged. And, we had done the Sing conference online. There were elements that were online, but and not that it was an afterthought, but it definitely wasn't, at the top of all the programming. We did what we could as we did the live event, because it's just so much, but we definitely want to pursue more of a hybrid scenario where the digital maintains really strong, Sing Global is really strong, and then we do what we can. And this next year, the year after, depending on where we all are, and building the live events around that.
Yeah. When you first started the Sing conference, and we're going to talk a little bit more about your husband and yourself being these entrepreneurs who I just love, but what started the Sing conference? I mean, how did it develop?
We had a number of, Keith and I for the last 20 years have been passionate about writing modern hymns and helping to support and champion congregational singing in our particular way, and the opportunities that were given to us. And so we've always been interested in obviously singing in church, music in church, and how what we sing helps build deep believers all around the world. When we sing something, we remember it in such a significant way. And so it's important what we sing. It's important what we sing with our children, and passing on to the next generation the glorious deeds of the Lord through the songs that we sing. And so as we've been traveling over the years and presenting concerts and being part of services and things, increasingly we were having more opportunities to not just sing, but to talk about why we sing, to not just write songs, but to talk about why and how we write songs, to not just lead worship, but to talk about why and how we would, we lead worship. And people along the way said, you should do a conference, it'd be good to do a conference. And Keith often jokes that our pastor, when we first lived in America in Cleveland, is Alistair Begg. And he told Keith that he said, I will break your legs if you write a book before you're 40 years old. It's quite a dramatic thing. But anyway, when Keith turned 40, he thought, well, let's put some of these ideas in a very, simple, short book that captures what singing is, that we're created, compelled, commanded to sing. And this in turn affects the life of the individual, our families, the church, and our wider witness to the world. And so in writing the book, we thought it'd be a good time to do the conference. And we started at Brentwood Baptist Church in Nashville. And we're greatly encouraged by the response to that. Then we grew from that into the Music City Conference Center, which is a great place, and then moved out to the Opryland Hotel to give us more room, and then incorporated the Bridgestone Arena last year and the Grand Ole Opry concerts. And then of course this year we had to move digitally, but that's just a sort of a quick whistle top tour over the conference the last few years. And we had sort of a 5-year journey. First year was just the ideas of Sing. And then we looked at the life of Christ, we looked at the Psalms, and this year we looked at singing through the whole Bible and understanding of the scriptures. And next year is looking at hymnody through the ages.
Yeah.
That was the first 5-year plan, but we have many years all coming up of ideas. Yeah.
And it's not even just you and Keith talking. You guys are including Alistair Begg, Tim Keller, John Piper. How do all of these different speakers speak into it theologically?
Well, yes, you're absolutely right. It's not just Keith and I. We do a little bit of it, and we try to do a good job of just gathering in lots of different voices that from different spaces who can speak into this idea of what congregations sing, and just how formative in the life of a believer what we sing is. And a lot of the people that we've invited, especially the first few years, are just our friends, from traveling around the place. This is Keith's greatest skill. I mean, he's a great musician, a great songwriter, but I would say his greatest skill is actually gathering people into the party, gathering them around a table, finding this person and that person, connecting them and bringing them together. He has done that since he was a little boy, and it's just always what he does. So my life is never boring. It's always busy. There's always people in our home. That's just part of what he loves to do. And so the conference was just an extension of that. People that we'd met and gotten to know from all over the world, people from the UK and a lot of people in America, as we've traveled and gone to other conferences, and basically finding like-minded people in different spaces of the church and different skill sets, but finding this common ground of both gospel-centered life, Bible-centered life, and then the importance of singing. And so people like John Piper, Alistair Begg, were able to, with their wonderful understanding of the scriptures, of their great experience of church life as pastors, were able to speak in and really encourage us and the people that gathered with us in faith and singing and church life.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a
I
very
would
long
say
answer.
your husband is a great networker, as you and I talked, because it was through Bob Dull that I met Johnny. Through Johnny, I met Keith, and then Keith and Bob did the interview, and then now I'm doing one with you. And so it's constantly growing all the time.
And that's how these sorts of things happen, but we were so wanted at the very beginning and continue to want that the people that we have coming around us are people that we actually know, spend time with, are trying to get to know. And so there is an authenticity about the relationship and connection at a deep level through all the different ideas.
Kristyn, you mentioned initially that you graduated with a writing degree and you studied English. Was songwriting, singing a passion for you? Was that something you dreamed that you wanted to do as a little girl? How did that journey start?
I know. Well, my parents are in church ministry. They planted a church whenever I was little, but just before they did that, I attended an evening service of the church that I started in as a very little girl. And a lady came to the front of the church. It was a Sunday night service, and she started to sing. And I remember that very vividly as the moment that I thought about singing and what it did and how powerful it could be. And I can remember thinking, I would like to do that. I'd like to sing. I'd like to sing for and with people. And that was before I could even figure out if I could sing, but I just took an interest in it, and it was literally like a little seed that planted and was growing and nurtured by my parents, who in their desire not to ever be those pushy parents, just sort of let me be. I worked a lot in church and got involved with musicians in church, and they encouraged me to come along and sing. And it was around the age of 15 or 16 that my parents started to say, is this something that you'd like to do? But I met my husband when I was 18, and at that point I was about to start my degree in, as you said, in English literature. And so I was interested in words and communication and literature, but had never really thought about writing songs. And it was Keith that suggested that I should. He was working with the African Children's Choir randomly at that time, and he needed to write some new songs. And so that's how we started writing these songs together over it was a summertime, and just became great friends. And then a few years into that, got married. That's sort of been the story. So it's his fault that I'm into songwriting.
Hey, speaking that songwriting, talk to me about Evensong and how that developed.
Yeah. So we last year, Keith said to me, Kristyn, you're turning 40 next year, and you've been singing my hymns, our hymns, other people's hymns for the last 20 years. If there was a project you wanted to do as a birthday present, what would you like? And I thought, well, Keith and I had often talked about how we'd love to do a lullaby album, but of course, a lot of the lullabies that I sing to my kids are hymns, So I wanted to do an album that was a mixture of new lullabies, old hymns, a couple of our hymns, but do them in such a way that would feel like an evening time record. The notion of evensong is a very traditional one, particularly in the Anglican Church, and that is a short service at the end of the day where you can collect your thoughts, bring your mind and heart towards the Lord, and help sanctify the night by remembering who he is and going to sleep in the peace that he brings. And I love that idea. We do it with our kids. Most nights we're singing and praying with them, answering questions and having that little time with them. And so this was just an album that supported something that we already often do as a family, and something that is, I think, significant for all of us, no matter what age we are and whether we are with lots of people in our home or are alone. The use of music carrying truth, produced in such a way that's sort of calming and reflective before we go to sleep.
Yeah. And so, Kristyn, when you even write Evensong or different things, how long does it take for you to write and produce even this particular album? Is it a year's journey? Is it 2 years journey? Is it in and out over a period? How do you work through all that?
Well, songwriting is a funny thing because it collects together so many ideas and so many life experiences, and there's something mysterious about the creative process anyway. There are definitely skills you want to develop. There are disciplines it requires. There is interaction and collaboration with other people. But being an art form, it's not a science. And so when I look at this last album, there was a flurry of activity in the late spring where I was recording and working with musicians. It was complex because of COVID-19. Everyone had to do things apart. I had a little whisper room studio provided by Crossway for another project, and I used that to sing my vocals. And so there was that sort of, lots of activity then. But the songs are representative of the last 10 years of being a mother. And even before that, when we first started writing, we wrote kids' songs and lullabies. And so a lot of the lyrics of the newer songs are informed by a much longer journey.
Yeah. And Kristyn, I say this because I am so fascinated by what you just said. I am purely a math science guy. Loved chemistry, loved math growing up. And then from that point on, loved history. And I built cell towers for 12 years before taking on this ministry. So I'm more of a nuts and bolts type of guy. But
Right.
for you, but one of the things that my seminary professor always told me is you got to reflect upon your past. And allow your past to really guide you and allow God to show you what you're doing. You can learn it from your past. And I love this creative process where you're dipping into your life as a mom, but even reflections about what God's been teaching you all these years.
Yeah, I know. And I've met other people who talk about trying to have the appropriate amount of silence in their life so that they can actually take in, so they can give out. Obviously, silence is not something I'm as familiar with this last decade with 4 young children, but the experience of being with them and just trying to, you just observing life, observing them and soaking in things whichever way you can has been a key part of everything that we've been able to do this last decade particularly.
Kristyn, let me ask you, as a songwriter, sometimes like you'll get into creative, in some sense, you just don't know how to dip into your creativity. You just don't, I mean, everything's just right there. How do you break out of it? How do you find that rhythm? How do you get into your zone?
Oh my goodness. First of all, the rhythms that I try to find are constantly changing. And so one of the things I've had to accept, as a mum with young children is that I can't necessarily say 7 a.m. I'm going to do this, And so it's been a real learning curve to try new things, to be okay when they go and to start again, to constantly be starting again, and not get so hard on myself. I have loved in the evening sitting with my kids and as they fall asleep, as I've answered their questions, as I listen to music with them, and they want me to stay in the room until they fall asleep. And some of that quiet time has been my quiet space, reflecting on them, reflecting on the day, and working on lyrics as I did, or thinking songs that I want to write. And so I think you have to be creative about being creative. That's what it's been like for the last 10 years. And then leaning on other people. Collaboration has been a huge thing. I first started to write because I was, Keith asked me to. And so we wrote songs together. And so I've never really known any other way. And I think that gives not just a companionship, not just people to lean on, but it gives a longevity, because you need to constantly be inviting, new thoughts, new conversations, personalities, experiences into your own to keep growing. We're not meant to be just on our own. And if as a songwriter, I find that's been pretty crucial. And because we see the world through our eyes, and to be able to see it through other people's, and to integrate that at a personal level, but also at a creative level.
Yeah. Kristyn, we talked about Keith is more of a networker. He brings everyone together. For you, I mean, you're a great songwriter. How also has God gifted you? What are some of the strengths that God has created you to be?
Gosh, you probably need to ask Keith that. I enjoy great conversation. So I love the hospitality side of the things that he does. But when it becomes great conversation, I absolutely adore that. And I don't know whether I've always enjoyed it, but I don't know whether in having lots of little kids, the joy of times whenever I can have, like, not just adult conversation. I'm talking about asking big questions. What are you reading? Why is it great? Not just the weather. I love that. And Keith has enabled that to happen because he brings so many great people along on our way. Oh my goodness, I can't think of any others right now. We're Irish. We don't tend to talk about our strengths.
Yeah. We do know that you love writing, but you don't like math. We got that from our conversation.
And that the irony of it is, though, I'm having to use little pieces of maths all the time. It's so funny. What they said was true back then. You're going to need this.
Kristyn, we have different leaders from different parts of the world, Jakarta, Nairobi, Austin, everything. They pretty much all ask me the same thing. How do I know what God is calling me to do? What advice would you give them? They'll look at you and says, wow, you're a successful mom. You've run a successful organization, a business, record label, everything like that. How do you know what God is calling you to do?
Those are great questions, and they have complexities, and it's hard to speak into another person's life, which is why it's so important to have close people around you who can advise you when it comes to getting married, when it comes to where you live. Having close people that you know who know you is, and the wisdom of older people, very, very important. I would say that obviously who we are is always much more important than what we do. And very early on, my uncle John Lennox, who inspired both Keith and I, he said, be great at whatever you do, but make sure your faith is growing faster than what you do. That should always be the biggest part of who you are and the engine behind everything. And so, character and what you understand about the Lord and how you live that out is so much more important than everything that you will ever do. But I remember during a gap year at university, I spoke to a pastor actually in Milwaukee, and he talked to me about the intersection of ability, passion, and opportunity, and that being a useful cross section to figure out where to go. So what abilities do I actually have, not necessarily want to have? What are the ones that I have that I can grow and develop? And they may not be the big sparkly ones, whatever you may think that is, but actually being very honest with who and what you are, and when it comes to skills, and then looking at where the opportunities are, where are the doors opening, where can you see that you could be useful, and then what you actually have a passion for, what gives a bit of a buzz. Obviously that will wane back and forward throughout life. I love to write songs, but I can tell you there's many days that I can't face it. So it's not so much saying that you always have to have the right feelings, but just that sort of deep sense of passion. And I've just found that always a real helpful, bringing those three ideas together has helped me process some different decisions about God's will for my life.
Got it. As you look at your life as well too, everyone would say, okay, what are some of the things that God has taught you? But one I'm going to ask you is, was there a defining moment or a mistake that you made or something that you messed up on that really changed the trajectory of your faith, that you look back at your life and that still sticks out as something that God taught you?
Trajectory of my faith. I can think of one. I can think of one that's sort of a work and faith one that happened pretty recently. And one of the things that happens is, as you develop and as you get more opportunities to do what you do, other opportunities that you weren't necessarily looking for cross your path. And I was listening to someone in an interview recently just talk about their particular field of work. And it was an area that I had started to work in a little bit and probably try a couple different things. But I was watching her as she talked, and just the years of passion and skill, and just the hours and hours that she had spent developing that. And I thought to myself, I have poured my hours over here so much in my songwriting and in my singing. The temptation to try and jump and do a million other things felt very strong for a while. I want to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. But it was just that little reckoning of, I could go and do that, but I don't have the time that person has put into that. And I can't get the last 20 years back to put it in, but I can use what I have here and try and, other people say, staying in your lane. And it doesn't mean like not trying new things, but it was just a real check in my mind, because I'd started thinking, right, the next 10 years, I'm going to do this and this and this. And it's just redirected me to think, no, actually, the Lord has led me down a particular path of opportunities and skills over the last 20 years. Life is very short. To try and be really good at something takes a lot of work, and just to be very careful at what I choose to spend time in when I've already invested so much of life in that particular path. So I'm not sure how spiritual that is, but it has been one thing that I've just been thinking about over the last month.
And I resonate with that, Kristyn, because 2 years ago I had cancer. During my cancer journey in my sinus, I laid in my bed. I was in so much pain. And I'm sitting there. I'm not sure if I want to do this ministry thing anymore. I'm not sure. I think I'm about to give up and go back to the corporate world. But exactly what you just said. I just spent over 12 years working on this niche. Lord, as hard as I am I going to just give it up and walk away because it's the easy thing to do because I'm just tired of it? And so a lot of times God uses those moments to speak to you all the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. A couple questions here. As you look at, there's Evensong, there's Sing and all that stuff. What's your goal for both you and Keith? Are you guys hoping, what is it, Sing going to continue to expand globally as you intersect with Asia, different things like that? What's your dream for the next couple of years for what you guys are doing with your music and also with your albums?
Yeah, definitely. As you said, to grow Sing Global, its impact, to listen over these next months as we plan for the next one, to try and make it better and to reach those who would find it useful and a faith boldening thing in their life. So that's very much, we are in Christ Alone is 20 years. I was going to say, how do you say that? It's a 20-year anniversary of the writing of In Christ Alone next year. And I think we're going to do a project which focuses not just on that hymn, but great hymns of the faith over time, and to do a special little project on that coincides with next year's hymns through the ages theme. So we're working towards that. Obviously, these next 10 years are pretty critical for us in terms of raising our children and being very much at home, particularly for me as their mum and for their dad. But I feel just all the things that you would imagine there, and so I want to make sure that I'm prioritizing, because life just gets busier, and that just doesn't stop. So it's trying to be careful of what you choose to do. But then the other side of that is using those opportunities and experiences with kids at home, normal everyday life, family worship, and utilizing those things as we write new songs and as we do new things. So they're just an extension of our real life at home, and that, because this is the season that we're in right now. So I see that. But the big long-term goal in the next 5 to 10 years is we're putting together a hymnal.
Good.
Old and new and classic hymns. So that's sort of like this overriding project that takes a very long time to do. So that's just always sort of in the back of our minds as we work towards that.
Yeah, wonderful. One last question for you, and I want to ask you something fun. You're balancing, you were talking about balance, taking care of your kids, everything like that. How do you balance? You now have a record label, touring company, online learning company, you're a songwriter, you have a publishing company, all of that stuff. For you personally, how do you balance all of that stuff along with taking care of your kids? How do you do all that each and every single day?
Well, I will say that the touring is not happening right now, so that's been a huge relief. In some ways, we miss being out in the road, but it's nice to have a season not doing that. But the only way you can ever do any of those things is to have help and to have a team, So I have somebody that comes in and helps me clean my house. Otherwise, I couldn't do those different things. So I figured out what are some of the things I can get help with. Whenever we are in Nashville, and then now whenever we're here, there's a girl that comes in 3 days a week, or 3.5, and she's helping me with schooling the kids. So there's no way I can sit and do homeschool all day and then sit and talk with you. So I'm talking with you right now, and she is next door with my 3 older kids, covering their topic on water today. They're doing water for the next 3 weeks. That's how and then having a real sense of team with my husband as well. And it is a team, it is help, but it's also picking and choosing the things you do within those things.
Oh my gosh, Kristyn, a lot of times I resonate with you because these days I run 4 or 5 different companies and organizations. And my key is former stay-at-home moms who were formerly project managers, executives. They are the best individuals in the world.
Of course they are. Yeah, you want your company run well?
Yes. A couple of fun questions here is, if you had, what's the one thing that sticks out by your mind with Ireland and Tennessee that you love best about those two places?
Oh my goodness. Well, Tennessee, we've been there 10 years. And I think after you've been in a place about 3 years, you start to to build some sort of, the cycles of time, seasons, relations, that things start to become more familiar. And so for me, Nashville represents becoming a mum there and having a sort of a settled home, married, kid life these last 10 years there. And so it's, we've got a great church. That's where we've built friendships. It's, it's I love Nashville, Tennessee. It's a great place to live, but I just love the familiarity of the fact that I've been there a long time. And I'm really grateful for that, because I'm not from America. It is so lovely to have been able to find a place that I have that sort of contentment in, as a mum and a wife. And but thrilled to be here right now. We find, because we're not from America, it's such a blessing to be able to come back to the really familiar space of where both Keith and I are from, and for the kids to be able to enjoy that. And it just gives us, so much of life is busy, busy, busy in something, and then withdrawing, that the sort of the rhythms of life, needing to be at work and then needing to be at rest. And so Northern Ireland, even though it's not the summer when it's a bit more of a vacation-y feel around here, it's the fall, but there's something about being at rest whenever we come here, and just sort of unplugging from the busyness of everything in Tennessee, and just being here where it's a lot more simple, and just a little easy that way. And we've got family around us. Things just aren't, there's just an ease with it. And we love that. But then after we've been here a few months, we just can't wait to get home again to Nashville. And so it's such a joy to have two different homes. And our girls seem to have navigated it pretty well, because it's not straightforward bouncing between the two. And I'm not sure how many years we'll be able to do it, because they're still so young. So it's easy to sort of lift them out and to go over. I would imagine in a few years' time, it might be a little more tricky to come here for quite so long, but we'll see. I might be wrong about that.
Is there a comfort food when you are on the road that you just have to have, that just gives you some sort of balance and routine?
Comfort food. You could ask anybody that question and they'd say chocolate.
Okay.
Everybody who knows me knows my deep, long passion for chocolate.
Got it. And then secretly, you now have 4 young girls, and you've probably watched all of the Disney princesses, Elmo. Which show do you secretly just love, enjoy? Is it Curious George? Is it Elmo? Which one do you love?
I love... There's two that I love. When it comes to Disney movies, I love Tangled, and the story of Rapunzel. Every time I watch it, I cry at the end when she sees her mom and dad for the first time since she was a baby. Literally every single time. I'm a blubbering idiot at the end of that. It's my favorite. And then I'm loving a little show right now called Puffin Rock. It is on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's the story of little puffin birds on the coastal area of Northern Ireland. So if you want to hear some good old Northern Irish accents in children's programming that's very lovely, recommend Puffin Rock.
And lastly, you are your advice to individuals, leaders, women who are there. You are highly successful. As I talk with you, you are confident but extremely sincere. What's your advice with women, Christian women who are trying to make a difference for the gospel? What's your advice for them as we wrap up?
It's the same thing that I'm constantly eager to try and remind myself of, because it's so easy. It is just is remaining close to the Lord. Always. Life will bring so many turns, and what has amazed me even through COVID-19 is the main things are still the plain things, and they never change no matter what is going on. To be a woman of prayer, and I say this and it convicts me because, well, I've been jet lagged the last couple of weeks, so many of my unusual things are out of the way, but a woman of prayer, and to be a woman of the word, and let that be your source of strength, source of focus. When we slide away, we start to think all sorts of different things, and we become so vulnerable. But staying close to the Lord, the main things are always the main things.
Yeah. Kristyn, thank you. I told Keith that when all this is over and we could travel again, I'd love to host you in Singapore and Jakarta and introduce the Southeast Asia region to what you are doing.
We would love that. We would love it. Yeah. Thanks so much.
And I live in Chicago. Next time you're in Chicago, I'd love to see you all as well, too.
Okay, that would be fantastic. Thanks for your time today. It's been lovely talking with you.
Take care and enjoy your time with the girls.
Thank you so much. See you
soon. Bye-bye.